Picture this, a flooded optical shop, two military veterans with nearly $1,000 in equipment, and one store owner who swears she never asked them to buy a single thing. Welcome to the courtroom battle where nobody could agree on who owned what, and Judge Judy was not having it. This is the story of how a simple flood turned into an all-out war over lens edges, and who exactly was telling the truth. Mary Woodruff owned an optical store that had been running for 17 years. 17 years. Her daughter Elizabeth helped run the place, and by all accounts, things were going smoothly until Mother Nature decided to crash the party. A flood hit the store hard, equipment was damaged, water everywhere, the kind of disaster that makes business owners want to cry into their insurance paperwork, and that's exactly where this whole mess started. Enter Ivy Fawcett, a disabled veteran with 29 years of optical experience. She started working at the store about a week after the flood hit. March 30th, 2014, to be exact. The timing couldn't have been more convenient. Or more complicated. Ivy didn't come alone. She brought along her friend Kim Barkley, another retired military veteran with a business management degree and 20 years of service under her belt. Kim had the credentials, the confidence, and most importantly, she had access to money. Here's where things get messy. According to Kim and Ivy, the optical store was basically limping along after the flood. No proper equipment to cut lenses. No functional lab setup. It was an optical shop in name only. So what did Kim do? She opened her wallet, or more accurately, her credit cards, and started buying equipment. A used lensometer for $400, an optical eyeglass grinding lens system, buffing equipment, all the bells and whistles needed to make an optical lab actually work. The total, $989.73. Now, you might be thinking, that doesn't sound like much for business equipment, and you'd be right. But here's the kicker. Neither Kim nor Ivy owned an optical shop. They had no business of their own, no storefront, no competing operation, just two veterans with optical experience trying to help out. Or so they claimed. Some of the equipment got delivered to Kim's house. Some went straight to the store. When asked why it came to her home, Kim said it was just easier that weight was in her name, so why not use her address? Red flag number one. Fast forward a few months, and suddenly everyone's pointing fingers. The working relationship exploded. Ivy claimed she wasn't paid for hours worked. Kim wanted her equipment back, or at least wanted to be reimbursed for what she spent. And Mary and Elizabeth, they were countersuing, claiming equipment was missing, and that Ivy had actually assaulted Elizabeth with a cane. Yeah, it got that bad. When they all showed up in Judge Judy's courtroom, you could feel the tension crackling like electricity. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was personal. From the moment the case started, Judge Judy knew something wasn't adding up. She cut through the noise like a hot knife through butter. Who actually purchased the substitute equipment? She demanded. Kim raised her hand. She had the receipts, the credit card statements, everything documented. But Judge Judy wasn't interested in just receipts. If it was that simple, they wouldn't be in court. The real question was bigger. Did Elizabeth or her mother Mary ever actually ask Kim to buy this equipment? Did they promise to pay her back? Was there any agreement at all? Judge Judy zeroed in on Ivy, demanding to know about conversations, not understandings or assumptions, but actual conversations where someone in authority told them to spend money. Ivy mentioned a meeting on June 25th. She had text messages to prove it. In the texts, she asked Elizabeth what she wanted done at the store. Elizabeth asked if Ivy wanted to set up the lab. Classic miscommunication territory. But here's what was missing. Nowhere in those messages did Elizabeth say, "Go spend $1,000 on equipment, and we'll pay you back." Judge Judy asked the million-dollar question point blank. Was there any agreement where either Elizabeth or her mother told you to buy the equipment and they would reimburse you? Yes or no? Ivy's answer, "No, Mom." The courtroom went silent. That one word no was the nail in the coffin of their case. Ivy tried to explain. She couldn't wait around for Elizabeth to tell her what to buy. She had 29 years of optical experience. She knew what was needed. She took initiative, but that's not how business works. You can't just spend someone else's money, even if you're spending your own money on their behalf, without their explicit permission. Mary and Elizabeth tried to mount their defense, but they kept interrupting. They kept talking over the judge. And if there's one thing Judge Judy doesn't tolerate, it's people who don't follow courtroom rules. After multiple warnings, Judge Judy dropped the hammer. Your counterclaims dismissed. Just like that, Mary and Elizabeth lost their chance to get anything back for the equipment they claimed was missing or for the alleged assault. One too many interruptions. and their case evaporated. But the main case, Kim and Ivy's claim for the equipment that was still alive. Judge Judy examined the evidence carefully. She looked at the receipts. She saw the photos of equipment. She noted one crucial fact. Neither Kim nor Ivy had an optical shop of their own, so neither one of you has an optical shop that would have any use for any of this stuff. Judge Judy asked. No ma'am, they both confirmed. That was huge. The equipment was sitting in Mary's store because there was literally nowhere else for it to go. Kim and Ivy couldn't use it. They didn't need it for any business of their own. It was purchased specifically for that location. Then Mary tried to show receipts proving she'd paid for the equipment. She shuffled through papers, trying to find anything that would show she'd reimbursed them or purchased the items herself. But the paperwork didn't match. The receipts Mary showed were for different equipment entirely. She mentioned something about insurance money coming through, about property management owing them money, about maybe subleasing the lab to Ivy instead of paying her hourly. The story kept changing. First, the equipment wasn't theirs. Then some of it was at the store but some wasn't. Then maybe Ivy had some of it. Then there was mysterious missing insurance money. Judge Judy had heard enough. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $989. Judge Judy announced. Your counterclaims dismissed. That's all. Kim and Ivy won. They were getting their money back for the equipment they'd purchased with their own funds as they filed out of the courtroom. Elizabeth couldn't help herself. She started yelling about how Ivy had assaulted her with a cane. Ivy fired back that she'd only lifted her cane defensively when Elizabeth got physical first. Even in defeat, the drama continued. So what went wrong here? How did a simple flood turn into a $1,000 courtroom battle? It all came down to communication or the lack of it. Ivy and Kim saw a problem and tried to solve it. They had good intentions. They had the experience and the funds. They genuinely seemed to want to help get the optical shop back on its feet after the flood. But they made a critical mistake. They assumed their help was wanted in that specific way. They assumed they'd be reimbursed. They assumed there was an understanding without ever getting clear, explicit permission. Mary and Elizabeth, on the other hand, made their own mistakes. If they truly didn't want Kim buying equipment, they should have said so clearly. If there was confusion about roles and expectations, they needed to clear it up immediately. Instead, they let the situation fester until it exploded. This case is a perfect example of why written agreements matter even between friends, even in casual business relationships, even when everyone has the best intentions. If Kim and Ivy had gotten something in writing, an email, a text, anything saying yes, please purchase this equipment and we'll pay you back, they would have won easily and avoided all this drama if Mary and Elizabeth had been clearer about boundaries and expectations from day one. None of this would have ended up in court. Instead, everyone assumed. Everyone thought the other person understood, and assumptions are where relationships go to die. Kim and Ivy walked away with their judgment, but they'd spent months fighting for it. The stress, the time, the damaged relationships. Was it worth it for less than $1,000? Mary and Elizabeth kept their optical shop, but now they had to pay nearly $1,000 for equipment that was probably still sitting in their store. Plus, they'd lost their counterclaim entirely because they couldn't follow simple courtroom rules. Nobody really won here. Everyone lost something: money, time, peace of mind, business relationships, maybe even friendships. The flood destroyed their equipment, but poor communication destroyed everything else in business. In friendship, in life, always get it in writing. Always clarify expectations. Always make sure everyone's on the same page before money starts changing hands, because otherwise, you might end up like these folks, standing in front of Judge Judy, realizing that I thought we had an understanding doesn't hold up in court. The optical shop survived the flood, but it nearly didn't survive what came after. And that's the real story, not about water damage or ruined equipment, but about how quickly trust can break down when people don't communicate clearly, about how assumptions can cost you everything,